30-3s. Here we are, last lesson for transformations. So again, every one of these videos, lessons in transformations, quick summary, transformation. What is it doing? It's taking an object and somehow transforming it to an image shape. Remember, if I have AB, after its transformation, it becomes A prime, B prime. And the transformations we've talked about now, translations, which are slides to new position. We had dilations, where everything gets multiplied by a K value to become an enlargement or a decrease in size. The shape stays the same. We then had reflections. Reflections is a mirror image. You flip something so it's equidistant from the line of reflection. Object and image, same distance from the line of reflection. And last day, we did rotations. A little trickier. You actually want to be turning to see a rotation. Well, today, we're now going to look at doing multiple transformations within one question. Nothing new. It's just a matter of staying organized when you do the work. And we'll sort of walk through to see how it can be done. So page 16, the first one. If you take a look at that, it's important that you understand it says perform the following transformations, rotate 90 degrees clockwise, then translate 4 right and 3 down. Draw the resulting image. Now, when we do this, we have to make sure that we go in order. Here's transformation 1, then we do transformation 2. So, if I want to do the transformation, again, turning the page, the first thing we want to do is we want to rotate 90 degrees clockwise. So in a clockwise direction, 90 degrees. Now, for some reason, these didn't perfectly line up. I just got to shift it. There we go. So there's our rotation. We took our object and we've rotated to our image. So I can call that arrow initial. There's arrow prime. We've rotated 90 degrees. Next, we want to draw a translation 4 right, always horizontal direction first, and 3 down. Remember, every point has to go through that. Now, I don't have to necessarily translate every point. I need to translate enough so I can draw this. So 4 right, I'll start with the A point. 4 right, and 3 down. There's my A double prime. Because right now, this is technically A, B, C, D, A, B, D, E, F. I didn't put C and G. I don't need all my points. B prime becomes 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3 down to B double prime. So A double prime, B double prime. So every point has to go through that translation. Now, I could translate every point. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. D double prime. Or I could just understand that every point now, and I'm going to use a different color so it's a little more visible, I can just outline the object. Now, E is a little trickier because it's the point. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, and there's my E double prime at that point. So D double prime to E double prime, F double prime, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3 down. There's F double prime. And we can just keep going around. 1 in, and there's what we finish with in terms of A double prime, B double prime, and I've got D, E, and F double prime. I've dropped off the 2 middle points, but that's okay. It simply said to draw, so we can see where it finishes. So that's the point where it should have finished. Again, started off with the rotation and then a translation. Now I understand with you, in your booklet, you can't rotate the grid alone. So like I've talked about, this is kind of what it looks like on your page. If I want to draw the object and how it becomes the image, well, to start with, I need to do a 90-degree clockwise rotation. So there's my first rotation, but I need to somehow put that onto the original grid, which is now twisted. So what I like to do sometimes is I'll say, well, this is going to be my arrow prime. So where does A prime finish at? -1, 6. -1, 6. B is at -1 and 4. D prime is at 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. -4 left, 3 up. E prime is at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 6 left, 5 up. And F prime is at 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So it's at -4 left, 7 up. So I need to jot those down somewhere, because technically you can't rotate. Now those actually wouldn't be there, but there's what your graph looks like. So when I rotate my page, I need to jot down what the coordinates are after it's rotated, so now I can put that on there. And there's where my A prime finishes at. B would finish there. B prime. D prime. So I am ending up with this particular diagram. So there's my A, B, D, E prime, and F prime. So I can actually start by rotating it, get the coordinates and jot them down. I have to jot those coordinates down so I can then transfer them onto the actual object. Then I can translate 4 right and 3 down. Everything's going to go 4 right and 3 down. So we end up with that same arrow. And there's the same thing, but on your page. Jotting down the rotations, the trick. So let's take a look. The next one, we want to rotate on the next page. We're on page 17 now. We want to rotate 90 degrees clockwise and then translate 6 units right. So here's your booklet. We have to first rotate 90 degrees clockwise again. So now that I have my new grid, this is now my y-axis, this is my x-axis, I need to jot down these points. A is at -1, 4. B is at -2, 1. C is at -5, 2. D is at -3, 2. And E is at -3, 6. So I've rotated my page. I've jotted down somewhere where it finishes. Now I go back to what the original graph looks like, and I plot these points. -1, 4. There's my A. And my B's at -2 and 1. So there's A prime, there's B prime. C prime, -5, 2. And I can just keep connecting these things together. D's at negative 3, 2. E's at negative 3, 6. And then I connect them. So these points jotted down from when I rotated my page, I can now transfer to the actual grid in the proper form. But I'm not finished because then I want to translate 6 units right. So everything's going to go 6 to the right. A double prime. E double prime. D double prime. B double prime. And C double prime. And there's where, whoop, not quite, my C's in the wrong spot. There's my problem. There's my C double prime. There we go. So there's the two-step transformation. If we take a look, what we have to be careful of is that this time, example 2, we can see if we do it where I can just rotate, there's my 90 degrees clockwise rotation in the same spot as it was, and everything translates 6 to the right. And we end up with the exact same object. So it's not a big change. But you can see that we finish with almost the same process, but it just helps when you can cheat because you have, well, a smartboard to work with. I can just rotate it. I don't have to rotate the booklets. So, now, question 2B. I don't know who noticed, but it's almost the exact same question, but we rotated 90, then translated 6. Well, this question B is to translate 6 to the right and then a 90-degree clockwise. Well, same two transformations, but a different order. Does that matter? That's what makes these kind of interesting. Does the order of it really change things? That's what we're going to check out. Well, we know what it should look like. Should finish up in quadrant. We finished with, this became object prime, and this was our object double prime, what we finished with, and that's what it looked like. Will we finish with the exact same thing if we translate first? Well, let's find out. So we are going to translate first. So everything needs to go 6 to the right. There's where our A prime is. B prime. C prime. D prime. And then E prime. So there's our first, ooh, that was a little ugly. There's our object primed. Now we want to rotate 90 degrees. So now what we need to do, it's a little trickier, is just take the booklet and rotate it. Now we can't do that. Let's see if I can do it with the smartboard. If I get lucky, this will work brilliant. So I am going to grab and create a box around everything. That's not what I wanted to do either. Grr. We'll get it. Be patient. Be patient. This is what I wanted here. So I want to take everything And I just want to group it all. Group the whole thing. And now I can just pretend that I have this, and I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees. So which way do we want to rotate? We want to rotate 90 degrees clockwise. So I rotate 90, line things up, and now I can see where I finish. And the question is, did I finish anywhere near what I did the last time? So there's where our object double prime finishes, this here, and is that even close to what the last one was? Here was our double transformation, and here is our second double transformation when we switch the order. So two transformations in different order, we can see gives us totally different solutions. So last couple ones, page 18 now. So the difference between doing actual rotations and transformations and reflections is sometimes it doesn't ask you to do it, it asks what's happened. So I kind of look at this question, it looks like top hats to me, a couple of top hats. We want to know what are the two transformations that takes top hat A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H to A prime, B prime, C prime, D prime, E prime, F prime, G prime, H prime top hats. So it's kind of nice they labeled them 1, 2, but we know that we are going from A prime, B prime to A double prime, B double prime, C double prime, D double prime, and so on. So we need two transformations that will occur. Take a look at it for a sec, pause the video, and see if you can think of what two transformations would work here. So the first thing that's important to understand, this case, you could do it in different orders. There's more than one solution. However, one of these has to be a reflection. We have to reflect. Because if I take a look at what I started with, A, B, C, D, this top hat on the right, when it becomes the top hat on the left, what's important to understand is that this here left side of the top hat, GF, well, it becomes GF, which is the right side of the top hat. And the right side of the initial object, top hat DE, all of a sudden becomes the left side. So we have here mirror images. This particular object has to have a reflection occur. And I would want to reflect on a line that's a vertical line of reflection. So the reflection would be a vertical line of reflection. Because that vertical line of reflection, G is one away, it could become G prime there. F is one away, so one away would become F prime. And we would then flip everything from one side of the line of reflection to the other side. But we see that that reflection doesn't give us exactly what we want because things would then have to shift. So it would have to be a reflection followed by a translation. And in this case, if I reflected, I would then have to be translating up to some extent. So this is a reflection followed by a translation. Now in this case, we also could, instead of reflecting first, it would be possible to translate everything up to. If I went everything up to, well, there's A prime, B prime is now up to, G prime is now going to be up. By translating up to start, well, now I can do my reflection. A prime becomes A double prime. B prime becomes B double prime. equidistance. So the other possibility here could be a translation followed by the reflection. But I don't think in this case, we know it's not a dilation because the size hasn't changed, and a rotation couldn't occur because they are oriented the same. So it has to be a translation and a reflection. Take the next one. Give the second one a try. Can you see what's going to take PQRS to P prime, Q prime, R prime, S prime, T prime? And notice that it does in this case say what's the single transformation that has occurred. So take a look, see if you can figure that out. Well, sort of a process of elimination. Does translation work? It doesn't, because I can't slide R to R prime. If I slide that way, well, if I then slid Q to Q prime, it would be way up there. And S to S prime isn't anywhere near where they are. So I know a translation doesn't work. A reflection won't work either, because if the Q was reflected on a line that's vertical, Q would be at the top, and it's not. Q is now down. So even if I reflected on a horizontal line, well, Q would be down there somewhere. So reflection's not going to work. A dilation definitely won't work, because dilation is going to change the size, and we can see the size hasn't changed. So the only possibility would be a rotation. So you want to take note, is it possible to rotate this graph so that one object becomes the other? Now I know my graph doesn't perfectly line up. I can rotate it and then slide it, and there you go. Note that my PQRS will slide directly over top, and what did we do? That particular rotation was 270 degrees clockwise. So I rotated 270 degrees. If I go back 270, I get back to the original, but I just have to clean that up. It's not a perfect square that I'm working with. 270 clockwise. But if a 270 clockwise works, don't forget there's always a partner. If I go counterclockwise and line up my grids, look at that. I could have a 270 clockwise or a 90 degree counterclockwise. So being able to identify can be just as important as doing. So that's the end of transformations. You have, please, that supplemental practice pages in the Google class needs to be completed. It's that simple. Practice, some of it's been assigned. Go back. It's a good review to do the ones you haven't to make sure you remember how to do them. And then in the booklet, pages 19, 20, and 21. Don't forget, my answer key booklet is included in that Google class. You can use it to correct. If something has confused you, let me know. We can meet and we can discuss. So there you go. Assessment will be coming up fairly soon. Make sure you have all 4 translations or transformations down pat, including if you want to do 2 or 3 transformations within one question. Have fun.